Hello everyone, this is Jake from CINECALIBER. In today's video, I'm actually going to be concluding my review on the new animated superhero TV show X-Men 97. This review will be covering episodes 6 through 10. Basically, if you guys haven't seen episodes 1 through 5, like the video for that'll be in the description below of this video. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. What basically where we had left off from last video was there was this big destruction of the Genosha Society, which was like a society for mutants trying to get like equal rights, and that was done by the Sentinels essentially. So we're gonna kind of continue off from there. There are gonna be some spoilers, so don't watch this if you haven't seen my first video. And yeah, after that, we're gonna kind of get right into this. I will basically have the final rating for this show in another short video. So thank you guys. We're gonna go right into the episode 6 review, and here is the plot summary. Storm is forced to face her worst fears in order to free herself. So this episode kind of takes a turn. It focuses more on two characters, with one being Professor Xavier and two being Storm. So surprise, Professor Xavier is actually still alive. Who would have guessed, right? But basically, my feelings for this was kind of mixed. He came back in this episode, and it's like he came back and he's basically going to marry Lilandra, who he's always had a love infatuation with her, and Lilandra's kind of the queen of the Sheer Empire, and they were introduced in like season 3 of the old show. And right now, like, really the main focus of that was Lilandra and her sister quarreling over Xavier's role in the Kree Kingdom, being that he's a human, is he worthy enough? It was an interesting arc for him, but it's kind of like, man, you gave up the X-Men for, love, which, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, it feels very weird for him, since he's such a sacrificing leader. Like, he doesn't really do stuff like that. So to see him kind of be kind of selfish and be like, you know what, I'm gonna just go marry the girl I love, and the other guys, they got this, right? And while the X-Men is kind of just like dealing with all this crap going on, like Genosha, and it kind of just felt a little like, damn, alright, Professor X, way to go. So yeah, I mean, the way that ended with his arc, it worked out pretty well for the most part. So, and I was interested to see what's going to happen with Professor X after that everything happened in this one with him. And then of course this episode is broken up into a second act, which is basically the continued storyline of Storm, who is still trying to find herself after losing her powers in episode 2 of this show. This was more of the darker, I would maybe more interesting aspect of the episode, where she has to overcome this demon called the Adversary, and basically just get everything on the table, get her emotions going, and then get her powers back for the most part. And it was a good part of the episode. I enjoyed that very well. So, and it kind of, you can kind of guess like what happens and not. So I won't spoil too much of that, but just know that's probably the better part of the episode, at least in my opinion. So, and that's really all I have for episode 6. Episode 7, here's a review for that and the plot summary. Cyclops focuses the X-Men on finding Bolivar Trask. However, when the team locates the Sentinel inventor, they realize that they all have been played by a mastermind. So this is the episode that really covers the trauma and the grief of the X-Men after the big Genosha event. Basically, spoilers again, the big character had died in episode 5, the death of Gambit, who was a big character in the original show, and he sacrificed himself to save what was left of Genosha in episode 5. And there was a lot of other characters too that had died, in this Magneto and Madeline Pryor, the clone of Jean Grey. So again, that was a big moment for this show. So because of all that, this episode really focuses a lot on Rogue, who loved Gambit. So it's kind of spent a lot with her searching for those who were behind Genosha and getting vengeance. So we see a more darker side of her, which we haven't really seen before. She's always been a kind of lighthearted, character. She with her own, her own tragic past, but never dark like this. So it was interesting to see that part of her. And then it really just kind of shows the X-Men as they focus their efforts to kind of just assist whoever survived the Genosha event. You kind of see like Jean and Scott and their relationship and how, they're kind of just left with all this and they're trying to just lead the mutants through this terrible time. It's tragic what happened to them and they're kind of just, they're on their own, and it sucks. And then other mutants are kind of just starting to get fed up with the lack of efforts by the humans to really assist them with anything, and what else we got here? There was a weird subplot in this episode with Jubilee and Roberto, which, I don't know. Jubilee's still, I like the characterization has been a little bit better for her, but I still feel like she's just kind of irrelevant at times still. So, but yeah, it was a nice little subplot, I guess. The Jubilee and Roberto relationship just helped give her something to do, I guess you could say, for the most part. There was a big turning point in this episode, which really, and again, spoilers, it exposes Trask as this crazy human sentinel. And it turns into this huge fight sequence, and it's like, oh my god, this is insane. And then it really, towards the end, it kind of just, the episode reveals who's really been behind Genosha, which you can guess Mr. Negative is a huge part of that, and then also a fellow Sentinel mutant called Bastion, who we'll kind of go into in this next part of the video. And here we go with that. This is episode 8 review, and the plot summary is the X-Men must unite to face a new threat. So basically at this point, episodes 8, 9, and 10 are basically all part of the same act, or they're both all 3 into one story. So a lot of things happen every episode, but they all pretty much connect together into one. This episode focuses mostly on Bastion, who I was just talking about. He is basically the true villain behind all these events that have been happening. And as people, as Jean, Cyclops, and also Cable comes back, they come to kind of look for answers, and they do so in his old childhood home. So this is where you kind of find out who Bastion is as a character, what are his motives, and what has he been up to. So and that was a really big part of the episode, and he's a pretty interesting villain, quite the mastermind, really. And, we really don't see his powers yet, but you kind of see him as just like a big manipulator in this whole thing. So, and then we actually, another spoiler, go into Magneto, who's shocked. Oh my god, he's alive. When Professor X is alive, Magneto's alive. They can't kill off too many people now, But yeah, basically towards the end of last episode, we kind of see Magneto's alive, and then this one puts him in an interesting direction as it unfolds, because it kind of leads him into the Magneto that we, the fans of X-Men, kind of are familiar with, if that makes sense. It feels more like he's along the lines of the villain version in the original X-Men films with Ian McKellen playing him. It really just feels like these characters are still evolving into the final forms that we know them as, and I think that's such a great part of this show. It just shows that there's still so much development to go for these characters, and I'm loving it. And yeah, there were some really good fight scenes in this episode. I mean, there's one with Wolverine and Nightcrawler. Oh my god, I was I got goosebumps from it. Excuse me, but Wolverine, he's always been the main focus, and he's really not the main focus in this show, but when they do showcase him, they showcase him the right way, being this badass hero and just trying to basically help his team and support them, I'm loving it. I love his role in this show. And then, of course, at the end of this episode, we get the return of Professor Xavier. So you can imagine the drama that's going to bring. That'll lead us into episode 9. And here's the plot summary for that. The X-Men work to settle the score before it is too late. So, guys, this is the penultimate episode. This is the second part of that 3-part act I was telling you about. And basically, this episode splits the X-Men with one group having to stop Bastion's plan for world domination, the other being Magneto's plan for world domination as well, as he's pretty much just fed up with the entire world at this point. So, really, that's like the main thing. For the most part, it's a very heavy action-centric episode, and it's just fight scene after fight scene for the most part, and it's pretty epic fight scenes. But there's some pretty, deep moments, especially with like the team struggle with the return of Professor Xavier, because again, he left to go be with a woman, and they're like, "What the heck, dude? Like, we really needed you, and that's what you were doing, So it kind of sucks, but there's some good moments between him and Scott and Jean and some of the others, and they work through it. But they have to kind of group together to finally stop these threats before the world just is no longer. So yeah, I don't want to get too much into the spoilers for stuff. Just that's basically what was happening. There was a major cliffhanger at the end of this episode. I was left with the whole "You're gonna leave it like that? No!" It was pretty crazy. So yeah, if you're watching this episode, just expect a major cliffhanger. And then we're gonna go into episode 10 here. Here's a plot summary for that. The X-Men's dream is put to the test as mutant-human relations reach a tipping point. So the continuance again of the last episode, the last part of that 3-story act. Basically, both teams are fighting Magneto and Bastion separately still. But this one, I would say, in the beginning, really starts to tackle that relationship between Magneto and Xavier. And really, how, despite their differences, they really care for each other. I really thought that was such a great focus of this episode. They did a really good job. The whole relationship between them, the focus has been really tremendous in this show overall. So, and it kind of is like the peak in this moment of the show. Then after everything, there's actually this huge epic battle between Bastion and all the X-Men. It's kind of like seeing if you want to compare all the heroes of Dragon Ball just kind of grouping together to just take on that final villain Boo. And it's oh my god, it's just epic. It's amazing. You get to see Bastion as a true fighter. They do such a great job, really. And then the show kind of, everything kind of wraps up. But then there's a huge cliffhanger ending, which kind of starts to then go into the next story that they're going to go into with season 2, which looks like they're leading towards the villain Apocalypse, who did come back at the end of season 5 of the original show. So I'm very excited for that. So, but that was, that's pretty much all I have to talk about here. And we're going to kind of go into the conclusion. So guys, again, this is arguably one of the best shows of the year. And right now it's the best animation show that I've seen so far. And it leaves me with high hopes for the next season. Now, Bayo DeMaio, who is the showrunner for this season, he did write the second season. So most of that is already written. They just have to kind of just finish up the animation and, all the other stuff. But so it's going to really be his show still, so it's still going to have the same vibe. My concern really is going to be when they get into season 3, because season 3 is where it's kind of not been finished writing. They're going to have to go with a whole other showrunner. Is it going to be as good? Well, we're going to have to see. I'm hoping that it keeps it up. And the show's done a tremendous job. It's done so good that I think they're saying that it's very possible they can get season 2 up by the end of this year. That would be crazy, really. I wasn't expecting it to come out for another season until at least next year, So, but I'll take it. But yeah, that's basically all I had. I will be posting another short video, just my final rating of the show. And all the links for that video and my other video will be in the description of this video. And have a good night or a good morning wherever you guys are at. And just a chicken CINECALIBER. Goodbye.